Hello, wrestling fans. Welcome to another episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic, episode 263, August 21st, 2021. I am your host, Lance Brock. Thank you for listening today, wherever you may be, wherever you're listening, whether you're listening on Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever else you can listen to podcasts on, or also the 360 Wrestling Podcast YouTube channel, the new YouTube channel for 360 Wrestling Podcasts. So check that out. Check out the newest episode of the new 360 Wrestling Podcast off Thursday with the co-hosts of that show, my niece and nephew, Madison and Brody, the birthday boy, tomorrow. So if you haven't checked out the new YouTube channel, check out that video, and in the comment section, wish him a happy birthday in the comments. It's his 5th birthday, so wish him a happy 5th birthday for tomorrow in the comments, or in the comments of whatever podcast app you use. I'll show them. Or if you want to send an email, 360wrestlingpodcast at gmail.com, or 360 Wrestling Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at 360 Wrestling Pod. So check all those out. And like I said, wish my nephew, Bruiser Brody, a happy birthday. And now let's get started with this episode, as starting the kickoff to Summerslam on Peacock. And hopefully there won't be any problems like Money in the Bank. There was some problems with Peacock. Hopefully tonight with SummerSlam, everything will go smoothly, or at least let's keep our fingers crossed anyway. Now let's get started. Talk about the pretty big night of pro wrestling action last night, Friday, August 20th, 2021, which, in my opinion, will go down in history. Why? I'll get to that in a little bit. But let's start off with WWE Smackdown real quick. We start off with a promo from Edge. And then Jey Uso defeated Rey Mysterio when Dominic Mysterio tried to get involved, but just ended up causing a distraction, costing his dad the match. And Baron Corbin taking on Kevin Owens, who stole the Money in the Bank briefcase last week on SmackDown from Big E. And Big E comes down, tries to get back, but he causes a disqualification, so the winner of the match is Baron Corbin. Backstage, Caleb Braxton is with Bianca Belair. Then we get a promo in the ring from Seth Rollins. Edge comes out, and then he does the old school Brood bloodbath, and was playing the Brood music for a second. I thought Gangrel was going to come out. And then we have Montez Ford and Otis in singles action. And Shinsuke Nakamura and Boogs taking on Apollo Crews and Aziz. Boogs and Nakamura pick up the win, and Boogs was pretty impressive in this one. And Bianca Belair defeats Carmella and Zelina Vega. And then in the main event segment of the show, we have once again another face-off with John Cena and the Universal Champion Roman Reigns. And that was last night's Smackdown. I thought it was a pretty good show. And now, to what? The news, the whole internet has been abuzz about for the last few weeks or so. AEW Rampage, the first dance, live from Chicago at the United Center. Commentary: Excalibur, Taz, Mark Henry, and filling in for Chris Jericho is good old JR, Jim Ross. And in case for some reason you've been living in a rock, or not in a rock, under a rock I should say, or in a hole, you may have heard some rumors about, there's this guy, I think his name is CM Punk. You may have heard rumors about him coming to AEW. And that was true. And that crowd at the United Center blew the roof off at Rampage last night. It was great to see him back in pro wrestling, back on TV. Like I said, it is just good to see him back in professional wrestling where he belongs. And cut a very good promo in the ring. Gave away free ice cream bars to the crowd. And now those special CM Punk wrappers are going, a little bit ago I seen on eBay, as high as about $70 for an ice cream wrapper. And we find out that September 5th, AEW All Out Live on pay-per-view, it'll be CM Punk making his AEW in-ring debut, taking on Darby Allin, and that, in my opinion, is going to be a great match. Will be interesting to see, though, if Punk will have any ring rust. Now, I know there was those rumors and things about him making a few appearances on an indie show with the mask, but other than that, if that was him, other than that, he's been out of the pro wrestling ring for 7 years. So, but I'm sure he's training to get back in shape. And now we have Private Party versus Jurassic Express, and Jungle Boy gets the pin on Mark Quinn to advance to get a chance to face the AEW World Tag Team Champions, the Young Bucks, in a cage match at All Out. Jade Cargill, with Smart Mark Sterling defeats Kiera Hogan, which I thought was a pretty good match. Jon Moxley defeated Daniel Garcia via submission in the main event. And that was the second episode of AEW Rampage. And in my opinion, I think they tapped last week. I have to admit, mainly because of the debut of CM Punk. But very good show, and it'll be interesting to see what the rating is and the viewership. I know last week the debut episode did very well in viewership, but we'll have to see what last night's episode did with the whole. There was a lot of buzz with CM Punk, so that might have got more people to tune in to TNT Rampage last night. Now, as soon as Rampage was over, the third wrestling night of the show, or wrestling show of the night. I'm sorry, I know if you've been listening to this podcast for a long time, you know I make a lot of mistakes when I try to talk, but okay, now after that I went to Impact Plus and started the replay of Impact Wrestling Emergence. And then we started things off, Matt Cardona with Chelsea Green in his corner. He defeats Rohit Raju. And an 8-person tag team match is up next. Tasha Steelz, Savannah Evans, Fala Abba, and No Way take on Decay, the team of Crazy Steve, Black Taurus, Rosemary, and Havoc. Good opener here. I thought Taurus pins Fala Abba to score the win for Decay. We get a backstage promo from Violent by Design. Steve Macklin gets an impressive win over Maple Leaf Muscle Petey Williams. Madison Rayne defeats Taylor Wilde in a pretty good match. GM Miller is backstage at this time with the Impact Wrestling World Tag Team Champions, the Good Brothers. Next up, a number 1 contenders 4-way match for the Impact Wrestling World Championship is Moose, Ace Austin, Chris Sabin, and The Draw, Sami Callihan. The finish of this one sees Callihan get a chair shot on Moose, and then Ace Austin is in the ring, and he sneaks a pin on Moose to get the victory and become the number 1 contender for the Impact World Championship. I think him and Christian Cage will be a very good match. Next, on Emergence, the Impact Wrestling X Division Championship is on the line. Josh Alexander and Jake something, and let me tell you, in my opinion, match of the night right here. This was a great wrestling match, great X Division style. If you missed Emergence and you can only watch one match for some reason, definitely check this match out. We have an intergender tag team match. Matthew Raywall and the Impact Wrestling Knockouts champion Deonna Purrazzo taking on Trey Miguel and Molina. Raywall pins Molina in this one to get the win for his team. GM Miller is backstage with the new Impact Wrestling World Champion Christian Cage. Now on Emergence, the Impact Wrestling World Tag Team Championships are on the line in a triple threat match. Violent by Design, Rhino and Joe Doring taking on Rich Swann and Willie Mack, and the Good Brothers, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, is the Good Brothers retaining their titles in this one. The main event of the evening for the Impact Wrestling World Championship, Christian Cage defending against Brian Myers. They have a pretty good match here. But it is Christian Cage, the Instant Classic, getting the win with the kill switch. And still Impact World Champion, Christian Cage, like I mentioned. The number 1 contender, now Ace Austin. Not sure when that match is going to happen, but I'm going to be surprised if it is at the next Impact Wrestling Impact Plus Special Victory Road in September. And like I have mentioned, we got SummerSlam tonight in less than an hour. Right now watching the kickoff on Peacock. And like I said a little bit ago, hopefully won't have any problems like during Money in the Bank. Right when the men's Money in the Bank match was about to start, had their trouble for about, I think maybe 10 to 15 minutes. But hopefully tonight, SummerSlam will run smoothly, or at least I hope so anyway. And let's get to the card. That which I'm sure will be the main event, the Universal Championship, Roman Reigns and John Cena. And last night on Smackdown, Reigns said if he does not win, he'll leave. So, at one time I thought maybe if he's gonna stay, they might put the title on Cena. But now my pick